In two previous videos, I demoed migration of Enterprise Guide projects and Data Integration Studio jobs from SAS 9.4 to SAS Studio Flows. In SAS 9.4, stored processes are a very popular feature, used in reporting, analytics, web application development. In VIA, the equivalent is jobs. In this video, we'll look at migrating SAS 9.4 stored processes to SAS VIA jobs. We'll start off by reviewing the stored process that we'll migrate. Then we'll look at planning for the migration with the content assessment reports. We'll export the stored processes using a SAS content assessment application, create SAS packages. And then when we do the import, I'll import with the UI to show you how that works in SAS Environment Manager. I'll import with some bulk tools also provided by SAS 9 Content Assessment, the Import SAS Packages applications. And then we'll review the results of the migration process. We'll look at the VIA job. Let's get started then. We'll migrate multiple stored processes, but we'll focus on one to see what's happening during the migration. So let's open the stored process application in SAS 9.4. I'll navigate to the stored process profit bar chart. You can see the stored process has a couple of prompts. I will select some values from the prompts and then we will run the stored process just to see what it does. So you can see it's a simple stored process that takes a couple of prompts and creates a bar chart. In the planning phase of a migration, we can use the SAS 9 Content Assessment reports to help with the migration. For stored processes, we're going to focus on two reports, SAS 9 Profile for stored processes and SAS 9 Code Check for stored processes. Let's look at Profile first. Here I'll open the Profile report. Profile is going to identify our stored processes for us. And the first tab, we will see where the stored processes are. The Overview tab will give you a count of the number of stored processes you have, which ones use external code, the location of that external code, and which stored processes are using prompts, because prompts are something we need to focus on to see if we can get our prompts working in the VIA prompt framework. The other report we'll look at is available in the Code Check directory, and it is SAS 9 Code Check for stored processes. So let's open that one up. On the Overview tab, we can see how many stored processes we have, how many are compatible, how many are incompatible. One of the things this report does for us is will identify any hard-coded paths within our stored processes that may have to change. I'm going to focus on stored processes in a particular area. We're going to look at stored processes under the finance content area. You can see I have 3 stored processes listed there. And you see our profit bar chart that we were focusing on. And the 3 of them are compatible, ready to be migrated. So in order to support using the export tool, I'm going to download the list of those stored processes to a CSV file. And that's going to drive the export process. So if I do that and I open the CSV file, you can see I have a list of the 3 stored processes in my finance area, and this file will use to drive the Create Packages application. Let's export the stored processes then. I can use traditional methods like Management Console or the Platform Object Framework, but I'm not going to demo that. I'm going to demo using the SAS Create SAS Packages application that's delivered with Content Assessment. Create SAS Packages for objects you want to migrate from SAS 9 to VIA. It currently supports Data Integration Studio jobs and stored processes. It's a command line tool. It's available inside the Content Assessment directory. It has to be installed on the same machine as SAS 9.4 Foundation and SAS 9.4 Platform Object Framework. And it's very easy to use. So from a command line, we run create SAS packages. We point at the source file, the CSV file we downloaded, and you can see as it runs through the process, it loops through the stored processes in the CSV file, and it exports those stored processes. So it's doing the 3 stored processes we had in our CSV file that we downloaded from the content assessment report. When it's done, we should be able to go over into the file system, into a directory within content assessment called SAS9 packages, which is the location where our packages will be exported to. It also outputs a log file. If you have any problems, you can check the log. If we go inside the content assessment directory, under SAS packages, the path is the same path that is recreated from the metadata where the stored process resided. So it's under GelCore Finance Content Reports. And you can see that we have 3 SAS package files and 3 logs there. So that's our SAS9 stored processes exported to package files. One of the ways we can import is using SAS Environment Manager. And in this step, we'll import a SAS package file that was exported from SAS Management Console in SAS9. If we go to the import area, open our SPK file. So I will browse to an SPK file that has stored processes and other content within it. If I open that up, you see it lists, it has some tables, a library, and the stored processes. I'm going to select just the 3 stored processes. Go to mapping. We don't really need to do any mapping for the stored processes. Select preview and then select import. It will run through the process of importing those 3 stored processes to SAS Viya, and of course creating the jobs within SAS Viya. So there you can see the result of the stored process. If we look at the log, it also can tell us where the stored process has been imported to. So it will be in the same location in the SAS Viya folder structure as it was in SAS9 metadata. In Environment Manager then we imported a package with multiple objects in it. The Import SAS9 Packages application, which is delivered with Content Assessment, supports importing multiple packages at the same time, so a bulk import. The application supports packages that include stored processes or DI Studio jobs. It uses the transfer plugin of the SAS Viya CLI to import that content, and it's designed to be used with packages created with the Create SAS Packages application, which we did when we exported. So let's look at using this tool. To use the application, it's located inside SAS9 Content Assessment install directory in the migration directory. We run the command import SAS packages, we pass it the location of the Viya CLI, and we pass it the source location of the packages. So that's the directory where we stored the packages, and run it, and it will go through and import all of the packages that are in that directory. You can see it here looping through the packages and importing them. There's our bar chart package, the second one, the final package importing, and we should get a message that it was successful. Now we can go over and go into SAS Studio, and we should see jobs created for our stored processes in the same location in the Viya folder structure as the stored processes was inside metadata. So under GelCore Finance Content Reports, I have 3 jobs. If I open the job, I can see the code. That is the code from the stored processes. It may be that I need to edit this code. In this case, you see here I have a metadata lib name that will not work within Viya. So I'll comment that out and I'll show you where the lib name comes from in a second. Let's save it. Run it, and you see that it populated the prompt with the region. I have the product line, and if I click submit, I should get my bar chart like I did within SAS9 In SAS9 we could also run stored processes from a URL in a browser. That we can do in Viya as well with the jobs. If we go over and look at the properties of the job, and down at the bottom of the properties you'll see there's a URL, and we can cut and paste that URL and put it in a browser window. So let me do that, and we'll copy that URL for the job, put it in the browser window, and run it. and we should see the same prompts. We see the region prompt getting populated. That is a task prompt that comes from data. I'll show you where that comes from in just a second. It takes a bit longer to populate because it's dynamically populating the prompt from data behind the scenes. Make our selections in the UI on the web, and we can run our report and we get the results. Get our bar chart again. So now we have our stored processes running as a job in SAS Viya. The prompt has been migrated over. We can see that here in the user interface for SAS Studio, and as I said, that was a dynamic prompt, so it was coming from a library FinData and a dataset financial summary. How is that data being made available? Well, if we go over to the compute server and the compute contexts, you'll see that I have the library defined as pre-assigned for the SAS Studio compute context and the job execution compute context. And the way to do that, there's a couple of ways to do it. We can import the library from SAS 9 and it will add it to those contexts, or we can use the UI in SAS Environment Manager or SAS Studio to define a library for those contexts. We can see that the FinData live name is pre-assigned for the SAS Studio compute context, and that's how it could access the data. And the job execution context is the one that's used when we run the job on the web. It's also pre-assigned there. Alright, let's review what we did to migrate our stored process to a SAS Viya job. We looked at the stored process. We used content assessment reports to plan for the migration of them. We downloaded stored processes that could be migrated from the SAS 9 code check for stored processes application. We did the export with create SAS packages, reading that CSV file that came from the content assessment report. I imported using the UI to show you how to do that, and we did a bulk import of the packages created by the create SAS packages application using the import SAS packages application. And finally, reviewed our job, ran it within SAS Studio, and ran it via a URL in a browser.